Yeah, we're live.
Alright. Whew, if you just do it, it'll turn out okay. Hey everyone, it's been Nate here, and usually on this channel we talk about some fun stuff, either debunking some YC stuff, or we talk about some game characters. But sometimes, occasionally, we got to get some serious. I hear an echo.
Okay. Everyone, it's the Nate here, and usually
There's some
on
audio
this channel
problems.
we talk about some fun stuff, either debunking some
There it
YC
is.
stuff.
Okay, maybe I should put my mic on mute.
But anyways, so talk about this. Lately, the world we have has been a little chaotic. But first, let's introduce our guests. First, hey, Eric, you had you usually had your channel taken away, right?
Yeah. So what happened was I had some copyright strikes that I never even knew about. And so one of my videos that got copyrighted was a video that I did about this pandemic, which was odd because there literally was nothing copyrighted in that. No music, no copyrighted logos or anything. So it probably was somebody who doesn't like me, probably a Kent Hovind supporter or something who purposely flagged that video. And so from my understanding of copyright laws, like with music, you can use copyrighted music as long as it's for parody purpose, like for parody purposes. That was at least my understanding of it for the longest time. So, and then the day before that, but before that whole thing happened with my channel, I uploaded a review/rant of Jaws: The Revenge. And so, and then I used Voodoo by Godsmack, like, to parody just how stupid like the plot of that movie was, because in the novelization they explain that the shark is out for revenge on the Brodies because of voodoo, and so, and then after that, I thought that using Voodoo by Godsmack like would be perfect, like to parody that. So the very next day, I tried logging on my channel on my phone, and it logged me out, and I'm like, okay. Then it logged me into my second account. Man, I tried to log back in on my phone numerous times, but it just would not work. So then I tried my iPad, and that didn't work either. And so, and then a few days before then, I sent my friend Katie a link to my Kent Hovind debate. So I thought, hey, why don't I click that link and see what happens? I clicked that link, and it said that the channel has been terminated. So I thought, oh no, this is not good. So I panicked because I've been on YouTube for 11 years, and I didn't want to have all that work and time go to complete waste. And so yeah, I was gonna fight hard to get my channel back. So then I sent YouTube I sent them an email, giving them my side of the story and whatnot, telling them that I had no idea that I even had these copyright strikes and whatnot. So then YouTube reviewed my channel. They saw that I violated nothing. So, and then they gave my channel back. So yeah, thank goodness.
Yep.
So let me make sure this straight. At first, I was like kind of upset that what a lame thing that you would have lost your channel over Jaws: The Revenge.
Right.
But then I was suddenly disturbed because you read the novelization of Jaws: The Revenge.
Oh,
what the hell were you thinking?
Well, I haven't read the novelization. It's just that I have heard from people like who have read it, like who have said that in the novel, like that's why the shark goes after revenge. And I mean, trust me, the movie was bad enough. I didn't want to read that novel. Screw that. I mean, the shark roars at the end. Sharks don't even have vocal cords. That movie was terrible.
It was awful.
And the
Yeah, it was really bad.
Is the shark like immortal or something?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean that has to be like a super shark or something. I mean, if it knows how to follow the Brodies and whatnot, seeking revenge, and
I thought
it
he
can
died in
roar
the
like
first movie.
Godzilla.
Yeah, I thought it blew up in the first movie.
Forget about X-Men. It's X-Shark. It's like
Right?
it's a shark weapon X. It could totally regenerate.
But
Mutation.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's no wonder why that there never was a Jaws 5 afterwards. It's because the fourth one was bad enough.
I thought the one in SeaWorld was bad.
Yeah, that one was pretty bad. I mean, it had a cool concept of the shark in SeaWorld. It was just executed poorly.
Yeah. Anyway,
But what is interesting about Jaws 3 is the fact that it has a very, very young Dennis Quaid in it. I mean, it's just so weird to see him so young in that movie.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually the very first movie that I ever ultimately realized I was watching a bad movie. Up until then, I would just watch anything, especially if you were watching the cable networks like HBO or Showtime back in the early 80s. It was a wasteland of just lawlessness. You would see the strangest movies, especially if you were up late at night. And when I finally saw Jaws 3D, I was just like, this is a terrible. I now understand what a terrible movie is, and
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
I remember my parents asking me, "Did you like it?" No, I don't recommend you watch it either, and they laughed and agreed with me. Okay.
Yeah,
I was too young in the early '80s. I was too young to watch most HBO shows. So I was only I was only a toddler then, so I can.
but yeah, I first saw Jaws 3 when one year my family and I went to Universal Studios, and at the gift shop they actually had Jaws 3 on VHS, and so at the gift shop and then I purchased like a little Jaws toy, and I also purchased Jaws 3 on VHS. And what I said to my mom, I was like, hey, so I know you said Jaws 3 was bad, but since I like Jaws 1, I thought that, hey, maybe I could check it out for myself. And she was like, sure, but if it sucks, I'm gonna say that I told you so. And me being so excited to watch it, it was because of how I love the first Jaws. But after I watched it, I was like, I should have listened to my mom. It's all my fault.
Listen to your mom.
Yeah, gotta learn the hard way. Parents know what they're talking about, at least when it comes to bad movies like Jaws 3. But yeah, Jaws 4 is definitely a lot worse.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the fact that Ellen Brody and the shark have a psychic link. What?
Yeah, it's the price you pay for, I guess, hooking up with Michael Caine, I guess. I don't know.
Psychic DNA link.
I guess, and yeah.
And also, sharks travel faster than planes because she took a plane to the Bahamas, and the shark beat them there. That's insane.
The shark must have taken the jet stream or the.
Either that or maybe the shark propelled its fin kind of like a helicopter or something in order to swim that fast or something. Oh, no, wait, even better. The shark learned how to fly. Which is probably where they got the idea for Sharknado.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, people give Sharknado crap, but at least that it knew that it was a bad movie, and at least that it had fun right there.
What was that movie? What was that movie where the sharks were as smart as humans? Like they
the one that you're thinking of, yeah, Deep Blue Sea.
Oh.
See, I have a different opinion than you do on bad movies. I love watching bad movies when they're actually trying to make a good movie, like the Room, a couple other movies.
You
But
tell me about Lisa.
yeah, he thought he was making a great movie and he failed miserably. And I love that. When somebody makes a really bad movie on purpose, it's just, for me, it's just not satisfying. So that's why, although I gotta say I enjoyed the first Sharknado movie, it wasn't quite as cool knowing that it was meant to be stupid. I'd so much rather watch somebody try really hard and fail. And I don't mean that just to make fun of them. I mean, that's my bucket list. I would love to make a feature film. And if I do, it will probably be shit. So I can only envy that piece of shit on a leader tape that they've produced.
But yeah, I have tried to make a movie a few times, and yeah, it's
Hard.
yeah, it's really hard. I mean, getting funding and whatnot, I mean, it's a nightmare. I mean, honestly, you might be better off winning the lottery than you are to make a movie. And so, so even if a movie is bad, I mean, you do have to still respect the fact that at least they got it made.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, so far, speaking of bad things,
Yeah, we should probably get on topic now.
kind of thing, kind of transitioning. So far this year hasn't been the greatest.
No, it has not.
Opinion. I think it all started with this thing. Have you been affected by this at all in your area?
You want to go first, Tony?
Yeah, sure. Me, because I don't have much to say. Actually, my area is obviously affected. I live in Las Vegas. All the casinos, all that's been shut down, and I mean that's the lifeblood of my community. Me personally, since I deal in sort of in an industry that is pretty much everywhere. I mean, it's ubiquitous. Funding for for different companies. I was able to work from home. The biggest thing for me that sucked was that I actually liked the people I work with, and so I didn't get to go to work and see them. But we ended up going back to work about 2 weeks ago, and so I mean, my business hasn't stopped. My income hasn't stopped. I haven't cashed my stimulus check or anything like that yet. I'm not trying to rub it in, but it hasn't affected me financially. It's just affected me socially.
Yeah, the pandemic definitely has affected me. I had all these plans for college and whatnot, and it definitely has threw things off. And I mean, I am still going to be going to college, but now it's been postponed till later. And this last semester, it was all it was forced to go online. Now, doing classes online is better than not have any classes at all. But just me personally, I would rather actually have a teacher physically be there and actually physically be in a classroom. You know, that's just me personally, and probably a lot of other people will agree with me. But yeah, and so it affected me that way, and work, because I work at a grocery store. Oh man, my work became a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. And I mean, the shelves, nearly all of it was nearly empty. It was both, I guess, oddly fascinating. It's because of the fact that how I never see that, the shelves being that empty. But it also was kind of stressful too, knowing that, hey, we got this much more work to do. There were some days when I would do 4 things at once, like trying to get the shelves stocked, trying to help bag up groceries, and trying to help bring in carts. I mean, we made more money during this pandemic than we have any prior year during Christmas, Thanksgiving, the Super Bowl, any of that. So work became a nightmare. While when the majority of the population was quarantined, I was mostly at work. It's because we just got that slammed. And so, and then I was panicking about trying to get hand sanitizer. It was because that back in December, I went on vacation, like to see my grandma and her wife. And then that actually was when I met Dapper Dino in person. It was because of the fact that Dapper Dino just happens to live not too far away from where they live. So, and then I had one thing of hand sanitizer when I went there. When the pandemic first started, I was holding on to that thing of hand sanitizer like no other. I would try to use as little as I possibly could. And then I tried to order some off of Amazon. It was because there was just no way that I could have got my hands on any hand sanitizer at the store. So I ordered some off of Amazon. It took 3 months for it to finally ship. And then when it was supposed to arrive, it didn't arrive. And then I thought that maybe somebody stole it or something. It's because I thought that would make sense, because it's a nationwide shortage. But then only to find out that it was eventually was delivered late. I mean, really, really late. It took 3 months to ship, and then an extra month for it to finally arrive. But luckily, when I was waiting for that, eventually my work finally was selling some hand sanitizer, but it would go by pretty fast. And then as soon as I had the advantage to buy hand sanitizer, I got it as quickly as I could. Oh man, I mean, this pandemic really has rocked my world this year, and it's definitely not how I want to start off my year.
Yeah, I've been still working too since I work at McDonald's. So, and we're got Central still. So, and we've been busier this past, either with people coming into drive-through or the DoorDash, Uber Eats stuff. But yeah, people are ordering like 50 nuggets at a time sometimes, like 40, 40, 40,
Wait.
40, 40.
Wait, who said 50 nuggets at a time?
Yeah.
Jeez.
People ordering nuggets and bulk, apparently.
Yeah, that reminds me of back when I worked at Sonic. Before that, I started work at the job I have now. There was one time when somebody called and they said they wanted like 200 or so cheeseburgers. And at first, my manager thought that it was just somebody who was just trying to pull their leg. It's because of the fact that sometimes we would get prank calls about stuff like that.
Yeah. But then actually the payment went through.
Right. And then once when the payment actually goes through it and whatnot, that is when that we know that they're actually serious. And oh man, that day making all those cheeseburgers. But yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, apparently they had like some going away party or something like that, and that was the reason why that they needed so many of them. And so yeah, I know how you feel.
So when this all happened, were you surprised that everyone went crazy about toilet paper for some reason?
Yeah. And I didn't really understand that, but then eventually I thought, okay, I understand that people, need some stuff, but the fact that they went that crazy over toilet paper, it's like, what about all of us who need some toilet paper, right? It's like, what else do you expect to wipe our butts with?
And especially since the COVID is a lung problem, not diarrhea problem.
I've heard that diarrhea is like a small symptom of it, but it's not like a severe symptom, as least far my understanding goes. But yeah,
well, on the toilet paper thing, it really didn't so much affect me at all. I guess I don't use that much toilet paper, but it did affect the girl I live with, who, I swear, when she goes into the restroom, it's like, and all of a sudden she's like, she doesn't use any either. So she could have been saving on toilet paper all along, and that makes me mad.
Yeah, possibly. But
funny story about that though is about a month before this all went down, I was with my niece at the a warehouse, Sam's Club warehouse thing, and she actually bought me a whole bulk roll of it. Like, okay, cool, thanks. And then then all of a sudden that happened, and like, hey, sweet, I'm already prepared before I knew it was happening.
But yeah, and there was this one meme that I saw on Facebook about the toilet paper that I thought was hilarious, and you two might have seen it. It was because I shared it. So it was this whole family who bought all these things of toilet paper, and like they bought an underground shelter. They bought only toilet paper. And then somebody said, "Hey, I think that we forgot to buy food."
Was that the one at the underground bunker?
Yeah. That one. Oh man, that was so funny. But yeah, but this pandemic has definitely created some of the best memes I have ever seen. Like that, there was one meme that I shared about it. It was this part during Zombieland, and then somebody circled like the toilet paper, and then it says, "Even Zombieland had the toilet paper."
That's awesome.
But yeah, when I share that, it then got like 4,000 shares, and
wow.
And then I got over 800 likes. I'm like, whoa! I could definitely see that people like this post.
Yeah.
But yeah. I can imagine that you two probably have seen some pretty good memes about it.
Yeah, I think I've put up a few that are might have been offensive, but that's kind of the way I think in my private life. I don't tend to bring that up too much. I don't tend to bring my Facebook life, my Facebook personal life into my my public knowledge or public education life. I kind of try to keep them secret, but yeah, in my private life, I definitely have had quite a few crazy memes that I've popped out there.
Yeah, unfortunately for my Facebook life, I want to do this because I've noticed a lot of weird things on Facebook about this. Like for one, that people are saying, oh, it's not that big of a deal. The flu kills more people every year.
Yeah, that's a nice manipulation of statistics. Obviously, they aren't. They're thinking about after the year has passed. We haven't even gotten halfway through the year. We've just gotten. We're not even quite halfway through the year. We're getting close. Hopefully we did break that curve. I mean, I hate to say this. I mean, I call your politics what they are. I hope that we have done the right things. I hope that our president's made the right decision. I hope that we have socially made the right decision by opening back up. But I don't think we have. But I'm honestly rooting on that side. I hope that everybody that's criticizing our panic over COVID is right. I don't think they are, but I hope they are.
But yeah, I definitely do think that people do have a right to take precautions, which I mean they should, and when it first started, there are people going around saying, "Oh, well, more people have died from the flu than from this," and I'm like, well, of course it has. It's because that the flu has been around a lot longer, and one of the other things I would say is like, yeah, and more people die every day from gunshots than from shark attacks. So, and does that mean that we should all go be naive and jump in the ocean with an open wound? No, and I mean, if people are dying from it, regardless how many people die from it, you need to take precautions.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that if you're worried about who dies from what every day, malaria is going to kill more people today than have ever died from the coronavirus. I don't see a worldwide panic over it. We do have some people that are out there in Africa right now that are doing their best to hold back the effect of malaria and other diseases. One of them happening to be Bill Gates, and I'm sure you guys have seen all those memes about Bill Gates. Sorry, you can't even protect your windows from viruses. The big thing is they ask what his qualifications are, and it's not his qualifications that we're putting into effect here. It's not his qualifications. It's the fact that he is funding a lot of doctors who do have the qualifications, and they are trying to come up with some kind of vaccine or cure. That's what he's done worldwide. I'm not saying let's deify Bill Gates, but I'm saying that we need to recognize who's actually trying to help.
Speaking of Bill Gates, there's memes about him saying that he wants to put the mark of the beast in our hands now.
I never heard that.
Because
I have, in the last 3 weeks, I've seen it a lot.
Yeah, he wants since he's going to force vaccines on us, the mark of the beast.
I'm surprised that I didn't hear about that.
I've been saying something for about 2 years now, is that paranoid conspiracy theories are like Lay's potato chips. I bet you can't have just one. Everybody I know that is a conspiracy theorist has several conspiracy theories they adhere to. It's never just one. So there's got to be something in the brain that makes you adhere to conspiracy theories. I don't know what it is. Somebody who's in psychology probably would be better qualified to even assess that. But that's what I've noticed, is that there's never one person who's just a creationist. It also has to tie into vaccines. It has to tie into flat Earth or moon things. It's insane how paranoid conspiracy theories work.
And yeah, you probably have noticed this too about conspiracy theories. I have noticed like that pretty much anything like that had an impact on the world, or anything in particular that has gotten attention is usually always the target of conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Tony. I would like to think. I would like to think that this is all not a big deal to either. But if it's not, with my asthma, like pre-existing conditions, I can't take that chance that it's not all fake or whatever. So I got to stay home. When I'm at work, and wear a mask. I can't take the chance of whatever, no big deal. Because if it is a big deal with my asthma, that could really affect me.
Okay.
But yeah, some of the conspiracy theories I've heard, it's like that this was man-made and like to control the human population, and I forget, and one of them being like that this is supposed to prophesize like some religious ideologies, and I forget the other ones.
So
the other conspiracy theories about it.
And then about it being also like the Chinese created it to kill us, whatever.
Yeah, that's always, that's part of it too. Yeah, I mean, it was developed by the government, then it was developed by the Chinese, and then of course one of the major things is the World Health Organization is in on it as well. And then recently, I've been hearing that Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci, are set to profit from a vaccine that they so far have indicated they're going to be giving out for free. I don't know how you make a profit. How else do you vaccinate an entire group of people? And if it's not for free, I mean, have you ever been vaccinated? I mean, I get my shots every year. The people that I'm paying are the people that are actually paid to load the syringe up and then put it in my arm, and that ends up being about $20 a year. I don't know how they're going to make a profit off of that when they've got to pay the guy that shoots me up. They've got to pay the store that hires that person, or the hospital that hires that person. And this is $20, possibly $40, whether or not you have insurance. And so it's affordable. And yet somehow he's going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars when he already has billions and billions of dollars. It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense.
Yeah, and I just remembered this. There was that conspiracy documentary going on. I think it was called Plandemic, and everybody was sharing it. But then, all these science channels like were debunking it. Like, I think one of them was Professor Tick. If you haven't seen any of his videos, he does a fantastic job debunking a lot of pseudoscience, and he did a video debunking that documentary, and he did a great job. And there was one other guy who did a debunk video of it, and he did a great job. And yeah, do you two know what documentary that I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. The Plandemic one, I watched it, and it was essentially it was a big fantasy story made up by one particular journalist. She talked about how she what she had done is she had actually taken materials from her lab home, and she claimed that she went to jail for her beliefs or prison for her beliefs, but she was really only in jail for a few days and then released, and basically made a plea bargain. She returned the stuff she stole, and so therefore they dropped the charges because they didn't want to go any further. But she made it sound like she's been persecuted all this time for speaking out against science, when really what it was is she stole stuff from work.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then from the research I've done, the scientific community doesn't really take her seriously. And after some of the stuff she's pulled off, I think I can see why.
Yeah, definitely.
And also, I don't think the anti-vaxxer people know how vaccines even work. It seems like.
Yeah, and that's exactly one of the things that I worry about, is that once we finally get a vaccine for this virus, anti-vaccine movement is going to be spreading misinformation about this. Which, I mean, now is the worst time to be spreading misinformation. I mean, it was already bad enough, like that they were already spreading misinformation about vaccines in general. But yeah, once this vaccine comes out for COVID-19, just all the things that they're going to try to do with the vaccine, it scares me.
Yeah, I think that some of them want to have for us to fight it off naturally and stuff. Well, the problem with that, look at the Black Plague when we did that back then. A third of the world died, or at least of Europe, at least. At least third or half the world died because we had to fight off naturally. That's the thing about natural selection. Yeah, you want to do natural selection, be my guest, but it's the chance that you might make it, and the vaccines help us, help out natural selection a little bit, by helping us survive.
The funny thing you mention is the Black Plague, because, well, that's not funny, but the fact of the matter is, when the Black Plague ended, a lot of people decided to get together and make up for lost time by having massive orgies. And so I just wanted to put that out there for anybody who's planning anything.
I was thinking of history, Black Plague. Apparently, after that happened, that's when the peasants got more rights, because they were like, "Hey, there's less of us now, so our skills are in more demand now. So why don't you start paying us for working your fields?"
That's a fascinating detail. I hadn't thought about that.
I have not thought about that. I have not thought about that one either. And so, and I have even met people who think that this whole thing isn't even real. Like right before my debate with Ken Hovind,
the one actually
him and I were chatting, and then he said that he thinks that this whole thing is a hoax, and then a friend of mine on Facebook said that he thinks that this whole thing's fake. It's because of how it's new, and I'm like, okay, well, just because it's new, it doesn't mean it's fake. And I mean, new viruses and whatnot come about all the time. And then I was trying to explain to him the process of how new viruses come up, is not a problem like with natural selection. He never said anything back, and so maybe he just didn't want to argue with me about it. But it just blows my mind that people think that this pandemic is just a big hoax.
Yeah, that's the thing with the mutation rates you're talking about. Viruses mutate far faster than we do. They not only that they reproduce, but they don't really have as many. Well, first of all, they don't go through recombination, so they don't have any filter in there to stop new mutations from occurring, and so they mutate so fast that's why we have to have a new flu vaccination every year. It's because they mutate really fast.
Yeah. The people
I
saying
said the same thing.
Yeah, people were saying if the flu vaccine works, how come we gotta get one every year? Because flu changes every year.
Exactly. It's because of evolution.
It's not like the measles or the mumps or chicken pox,
Right.
like one and done. The flu is a little bit more proactive, I guess.
But and this one of the things that saddens me about our country is the fact that we're one of the most undereducated countries in the world. I mean, we have a revival of people who think that the earth is flat, and we have people spreading all this misinformation about COVID-19, people who think it's a hoax. But I just really wish that something like would be done, like to help their education levels. And that is exactly why I'm trying to best my education as best as I can. It's because of the fact that I personally do not want to have to contribute to my country being one of the most undereducated countries in the world. That's just really sad.
Yeah, that's where I got one of my catchphrases at my end. Never stop learning. Don't
exactly never.
Yeah, but yeah, I have a friend that I work with. I not work with. I have a friend I stop by and see every day before I go to work. She works at the gas station right next to where I work at, so I come and buy a candy bar or whatever and say hi. But yes, she's pro-vaccine because like her mom actually has polio. So she's like one of the last remaining before the vaccine thing. So she's like, yeah, this stuff's real. My mom has polio and stuff. So, and at that lung thing sometimes. So yeah, it's like, it's not like a fake thing. Those things actually happen. And if you're not careful, it might happen again. People stop doing it. Vaccine their kids and stuff. It might come back.
Yeah, I have a friend on Facebook who's anti-vaccine. She just all the absurd pseudoscience that she posts on there. I mean, oh man, it just takes so much willpower for me to not say anything. And I mean, there are people who still think that vaccines cause autism, and that was debunked decades ago.
Yeah, I saw it too, and I replied back, well, autism's a really spectrum now, but I said, okay, whatever. I'd rather have autism than measles or polio or whatever,
Exactly.
I hadn't even thought about it from that point of view.
And it's better to have your kid be autistic rather than to have them dead. And I mean, heck, as far as my understanding, Albert Einstein had autism. I even believe Charles Darwin had it, and yeah, there have been a ton of people who are autistic,
and pretty smart,
right? Yeah, and they actually have impacted the world, and it's like, yeah, will they have a hard time socializing and whatnot? Sure, but for some of them, depending on how high functioning they are, you could teach them social skills. And it's like, at least give them a chance, at least give them at least like a vanishingly small chance, like to at least try to benefit the world. And I mean,
yeah, I think some people conflate autism with mental retardation or something like that. They think it's this like one and done, but it's like a whole spectrum.
Right, yeah, there's low functioning, medium functioning, and high functioning. And I mean, I have met some really high functioning people with autism. And yeah, and they're some of the smartest people that I have ever met.
I happen to be married to a woman who teaches for the Nevada, well, I guess it'd be Clark County School District here in Las Vegas. And I can tell you this, there's so much that's not being done, at least in this state. I can't speak for other states, but basically if they can't find a problem for you that you might have, they shove you into autism. And so it's just muddying it. So I'm not saying that people are not autistic, but I'm saying that they've given up on autistic people. They just don't take the time to work with them, or at least diagnose them correctly. And so I could tell you this from the school district has not been kind to her as a teacher, trying to work with these kids. And there's a lot to be said about the autism issue in the U.S. But what I can say is that there is no vaccine that will hurt or hinder that. That's going to happen. I mean, that's there anyway.
Right, and that one guy who published that paper about how he hypothesized that vaccines do cause autism, from my understanding, he actually lost his job over that paper, and yeah.
I did an episode that included that one, included that detail, and it wasn't just one person, but I believe it was my episode on peer review, because the episode was about the virtues and the weaknesses of peer review. I won't give you the creationist arguments that go along with that, but there are many that go along with that. And going over how the peer review process doesn't end at publication. It continues afterward. And there's actually two particular scientists that published that paper. I could look it up, but I mean, I want to save people some time here. But it was two scientists published the paper, claimed that they showed that vaccines caused autism, and then the entire research group they had worked with in mass decided to publicly speak out against it. And you're absolutely right. The journal that published that paper redacted it. They if you look at it, if you go and find it online, it has a big red little mark across it saying redacted or retracted, one of the two. Either way. But I mean, it's if you're wondering what episode I did it on, and the reason why I'm not putting it out there to promote my video, I'm putting it out there because the link to the paper is in the description there. The actual episode is on peer review, so you can look that up. Type Tony Reed peer review. You don't have to subscribe or anything like that. Just find the paper and read it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but all of this is really like getting everybody intent and stuff. But yeah, the next subject. I noticed this like a few weeks. This on around a few weeks ago. Did you hear about this? Hear about this one?
Choking dog. Wait, I didn't hear about a lady choking a dog. And since I'm a big dog person, that kind of makes me mad that somebody did that.
Well,
I'm in the same camp as Eric. I'd never heard that, but I couldn't wait to hear about that.
Okay, well, look it up online. Well, it was around New York. This black guy was bird watching, right? And there was this lady had her dog on a leash, and in New York Park apparently it's illegal to have your dog without a leash on. So he said, hey lady, can you put your dog on the leash? It's against the law, whatever. So she grabbed the dog by the collar, picked it up, came over there, says, what? Tell the police. It says, hello cops, this black guy is threatening me and me and my dog in the ramble or the park, and the dog's like gasping or whatever. He says, this black guy's threatening me.
That makes me so angry.
I don't even know where
and this whole time he has webcam on, taping the whole thing. You know, well, like yeah, he has webcam on. He was taping her, you know, and it's like this guy's threatening my life.
Wow.
That is horrible. And did you hear anything if that dog was okay? Did the dog die?
That's a great question.
She got fired from her job, and
she deserved it.
And the pound, whatever, or the shelter took the dog away, and she had to issue apology. And she had to issue an apology to the online apology, I guess, to either the dog and to the guy who was threatening him.
But yeah, and that poor guy too. I mean, getting threatened over looking out for someone else and their dog. I mean, talk about a way for her to completely overreact on him.
But yeah, at the point, of course, some people are, of course, I understand about the dog too, but some people are upset that, you know, more at the time more issues on the dog than the person. But yeah, but still, I think attacking both people were wrong. You know, threatening to call the cops on somebody because they're black, and then plus like the dog too. It's like, yeah. Put the dog, whatever it says, put the dog on the leash and walk away if you want to deal with the guy, you know, like don't like I'm gonna call the cops on you.
Right, yeah, it definitely is really sad on both, like that guy's part and the dog's part too. And I mean both of them suck just as much, but yeah, I can. Sorry, you can. Go ahead.
I can say that's the point. Is now with cameras, you know, you actually see what's happening. You can't take people's word for it. You see, oh yeah, actually, people think that stuff like this is actually happening around here. Cameras now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess we chased him out of the room. Oh, okay, there he is.
We're right here. I just got thirsty, and then I just wanted to grab a water bottle of mine. But yeah, so yeah, I just can't believe that I did not hear about that. I mean, I can imagine that probably was all over Facebook and whatnot. I'm just surprised that I didn't hear about.
Yeah, I first saw it on Twitter. So,
did this happen recently?
What happened before the next? What happened before the big one that happened?
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, it's like so probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago at this point.
Well, you know what? That's interesting you mentioned that, because it's probably not that we might not have run into that story. It's that the stories have gotten more and more interesting as we've gone by, because really, when you think about it, when's the last time you had any concern about murder hornets? Have you even thought about them in the past 2 weeks? I mean, they were a big deal not too long ago, remember?
Oh, yeah, because...
That is a valid point.
Yeah, we probably might have, that might have been eclipsed almost immediately by a bigger event. I mean, you live in Ohio, so, I mean, you probably, I hate to say it, you probably in some way might get your information before both Eric and I do, because we're both, Eric, you're in the Pacific, or are you in the Mountain Standard Time?
I am in the Mountain.
Okay. I'm in Pacific time, so I get my, whatever's live streaming. It's not that I don't get it any faster. It's that I might be asleep when that information is distributed. So, by the time I get to it, it's probably already been either changed or been, been trumped by more interesting information.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the cameras, because it's the thing that I think that I didn't know about before. Like, even when I was like, even I was I'll say, no, you're getting crazy. But even when I was a full-time 3-day-a-week church-going Christian, a lot of the stuff I had no idea about. So even though I went to church forever, maybe it was the church that I went to. They were more open, I guess, or not. But I had no idea that there are churches out there, like really proposing killing gays and stuff, and whatever, like the Westboro Baptist people, whatever. Back
That's a
then.
can of worms.
And it's like it wasn't until I started going to the internet after I started going to church a little bit that all of a sudden all this stuff happened. That how some Christians are acting. I'm like, what, really? And promoting YEC stuff. I'm like, and I had no idea stuff was happening. So I didn't know the internet that well. It's like, what have they always been like this, or this is a new thing, or if I just don't know about it, or what? But the more information gets out.
Yeah, and it's definitely Christians like both of those I can guarantee that the people like both those camps is a big reason why that a lot of people are leaving the church. Those are pretty common reasons that I hear, at least.
Oh, we got a question that says, when do you think the pandemic will end?
I hope soon, but I'm not sure. If I had to assume, at least by December. I could be wrong.
I don't know if it end, but I think hopefully by this time next year it won't be that big of a deal. People think about how it's like it won't be that big of a deal. People will either we'll get either I don't say immune to it, but we'll get used to it or something. It won't be that big a deal. But like people talking about how this happened 10 years ago. I don't remember that 10 years ago. I don't remember the SARS 10 years ago. I remember wearing masks back then, so I don't think it was that big a deal.
Yeah, and with doing social distancing, toilet paper being hoarded and whatnot.
As far as when I think the pandemic will end, I think you're asking me at the wrong time. And the reason why is because we've just done a social experiment, whether we like it or not. We've done one, and it's about protests. I mean, we had protesters, and I don't just mean the protesters in favor of George Floyd, but also of the protesters that are protesting against being quarantined. There is a very good chance that in the next week or two, we'll start seeing spikes in infections. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it doesn't happen, but there's a very good chance of it. And if that's the case, then all bets are off. Now, if in the next week or two we don't see any spikes, we may be out of the woods. I mean, we might be. I hope we are. I don't think we are, but I hope we are.
Yeah, but
speaking of that,
tests are gonna delay and whatnot. Yeah,
it's on their next list. Which goes back to our last topic. People just because they're black, and like. Apparently, there's rumor, not the thing that he had COVID too. He survived.
I don't see how that's even relevant.
And people are like, oh, he died from COVID, something like that.
Okay, you know what? Here's the problem with that. When the settlers from Europe first came to the Americas, they interacted with Native Americans and wiped out half of them without even striking a single blow. Half of all Native American tribes were wiped out within like 50 years. And it was simply because the Europeans came over to the Americas they were carrying diseases. They were carrying them. They weren't showing symptoms, but they interacted with these Native Americans, and the result was the death of several entire nations of Native Americans. But there is an interesting postscript to that, which is that the Native Americans also gave the Europeans a disease, syphilis. Yeah, there you go. The point is, just because you're not showing symptoms and just because you're perfectly healthy doesn't mean you're not a carrier. This is about immunization. This is about herd immunity. And that the whole point that, he had COVID-19, I guess there's one side of it where he would have died anyway, which is erroneous. But there's the other side of it, which is that it's not that harmful, and maybe it's not harmful to you. I'm 48. I'm almost 49, and so when you think about that, I'm almost in the demographic that's most affected by the COVID virus. And so there's something to be concerned about. It's not about you being healthy. It's about others being healthy.
Yeah, I just turned 40, so I'm getting there. Plus, I have asthma, so I'm like, I'm double there. But yeah, even if he did or didn't, if he did, then that his COVID, I think, like pneumonia affects your breathing, so that like him on his neck would double bad. Double breathing problems.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Maybe they were trying to say that it was because of COVID. That's why he might have died. Not the pressure to his vertebrae, not the pressure to his lungs or anything like that. They're trying to say that it was because of COVID. Is that what it is?
Maybe.
But yeah, it was very, very clear like that he died. It was because of how like that cop, I choked him like when he told him stop numerous times.
I spent a good number of years, probably about 20 years doing judo. And one of the things about judo is there's 3 ways you can win. You can grab 4 ways you can win. Slam somebody into the ground perfectly. They give you a point that ends the match. You can hold somebody down for 30 seconds and you win the match. The other things you can do is arm bar, break somebody's arm, and you suddenly win. Or you can choke them out. And so we learned how to choke people out. And when you watch movies, you think that choking people out is this long drawn out process. Normally, it's actually pretty quick. I've choked somebody out within 10 seconds. What is the worst kind of choke is the one where you're belaboring it for a long time, and in the end, they finally pass out. They've suffered that whole time. Probably you've broken their hyoid bone, so they're going to speak differently. But I mean, especially if you're putting pressure on their neck. There are a lot of weird positions you can put a body in that will cause them to not be able to breathe, maybe bring in a little bit of air, but not enough to actually substantiate the oxygen that your body needs. I could see that happening. I wonder, are we going to discuss the charges against the police officers?
Yeah, probably should. Like they raised the one of them from third degree, the second degree murder, and then the other one other three were aiding and abetting or not stopping them.
I'm not talking. Well, there's I can't answer for the cops there. I do know that apparently 2 of them were vocally, in opposition to what was going on. I don't know that. I haven't looked into it enough. I'm about as much of an amateur as everybody watching or everybody on this show, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that cop definitely did overstep his boundaries, which is one of the unfortunate effects to this whole thing is that now that people are going to have people are now going to think of all cops in a very, very bad way. I mean, yeah, there are cops who absolutely do overstep their boundaries. I mean, something similar happened like with NWA. I do not know if you two know that whole story.
No.
Okay, so NWA was a rap group. They're most notorious for their infamous song "Fuck the Police."
Okay, I think I've heard that. I think I've heard the
And
song
yeah,
before.
and the reason why they wrote that song, it was because of the fact that these cops like were harassing them. They would arrest them just because of the color of their skin, and so and then they wrote that song, you know, just to write about like just like how frustrated and like just how fed up they were about getting harassed by these cops, and people were upset by the song, and I definitely can understand why. It's because of the fact that there are some good cops out there, and even my dad is even a former FBI agent, and so yeah, so I completely get why people would be offended by that song, but yet when they wrote that song, they weren't you know they weren't like they weren't saying, oh well, fuck all the good cops. They're just saying, oh well, fuck all these all these cops overstepping their boundaries. And yeah, I think that something needs to be done in order like to save like the cops, in order like to save the reputation of the police. It's because of the fact that police do save lives.
Mm.
And there are some good cops out there. And from what I've heard, even people like to protest. They even have went out and killed some cops. And I'm like, okay, so those cops that you're killing, they didn't have anything to do with that one particular cop overstepping their boundaries. And that's not going to really solve anything.
I've got to say that you're not obviously you're not alone in that thinking. But what's interesting about that is I do see your opinion very much out there. I was telling Lamont earlier that I would like to discuss some of the more positive aspects of this, and it's hard to imagine something positive. But what I've been very impressed by, and this is probably just the friends that I have. Maybe this is a credit to the friends I have, or the friends I keep. But I have noticed that even my friends that are so hardcore against being shut up and being left alone in their homes, they still seem to recognize that it sucks that it's an awful thing that police that there is a disproportionate amount of violence among the black community by police. They also seem to agree that there is something very wrong with the rioting and the looting, and yet I'm very surprised to see that. Seems like everybody, not everybody, but I mean, for the most part, people seem to understand that the looters and the rioters are not synonymous with the people who are protesting. And I'm very impressed with that, because years ago when I was in college, we had this LA riot you might have heard about. It was a big deal, and there was nobody on both sides of the issue. There was either these black people should just shut up and why are they destroying their own neighborhood, and then there were the other people that I understand why they're looting their neighborhoods and it's justified. Both sides were wrong in that case, but this is the opinion that's correct. It's wrong both in all three cases. It's wrong that black people are disproportionately killed by police. It is wrong that people loot things, and it's wrong to associate protesters with looters. I love that that people today seem to recognize that. Not everybody. I got you. There's definitely some people that don't, but I'm very impressed. And so here's what I'm going to say that's very more controversial than any of that, which is that perhaps that's the contribution that the millennials are making, because my generation didn't feel that way 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Who knows? Maybe the millennials aren't as bad as the boomers say they are.
Oh. But yeah, I found this picture. People. I just found this picture that really. I share it with you. That really does it. Okay.
Bye, Eric. Guess we'll see you in a minute. Oh no. What you got there?
A picture. The picture I found. Like people are saying no, are doing the all life matters versus Black Life Matters thing.
Yeah, that I really hate seeing those now because it seems like it should have been obvious years ago. It's not that they're saying all lives don't matter. It's that they're saying, look, hey, have you forgot that our lives matter too? That's what the whole Black Lives Matter thing is about. It's like, hey, remember us? We matter too. And yet, oh man, okay, show me your cartoon and then I'll just shut up.
Yeah, it's like I guess Eric's computer crashed, whatever. So he's back on his crash, but I think it's like so this cartoon and another thing I saw really amplifies it. You know, the other one I saw was the fire one, something about being on fire, a house is on fire. You say my house matters. He says my house matters too. You know, like yes, but your house is on fire. Like let's put out the houses on fires right first. Then we can worry about your house that's not on fire.
Yeah, that seems to be obvious, but you know, we live in a world now that's I would say it's mostly governed by social media. The news doesn't really mean, most people don't even know what the news is. I mean, they consider Fox News, CNN, MSNBC to be news outlets because they have news in their names. But in reality, they are pundits. They are telling you how to think about the news. Now, because they are cable networks, they're under no obligation to present any news, any actual news. They can make all the opinions they want. They are entertainment only. On the other hand, there are a few networks that we know of that are legally mandated to provide the news. And I'm not saying that CBS, NBC, or ABC are reliable sources of news, or at least the most reliable sources, but they do present their sources. And almost every time that source is either the Associated Press or Reuters when it comes to national issues. And you can tell the difference between a hit piece, and you can tell the difference between a hit piece and an actual news article by the way they present it. Most of the news hit pieces, they basically, if they talk about an issue with, say the Donald Trump administration, it's from the standpoint of people that are protesting. Hey, how's it going, Eric?
But yeah, I am so sorry about that. It's not the first time that's happened when I'm in the middle of a live stream, and then my computer crashes. So yeah, I definitely need to get it looked at. Apparently, it said that it did that, like to protect some data or something like that. So yeah.
Can I go ahead and answer Robert really quick?
Oh, yeah, I guess you were watching.
Sure. Yeah, apparently Robert really wants you to answer this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh God, I'm sorry we fingered you, but I am working on an episode on information, and believe it or not, you know, I'm not an actual scientist. I don't have a doctorate degree in any kind of science. Strangely enough, I do have a religious degree. I have a doctorate in divinity, but I don't use that for anything. I don't promote it as any credential of any sort. But I am taking courses in information theory so that I can actually answer that question on the origin of information. And I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler, not much of a spoiler, but the creationists are redefining what information means, the actual definition of information. So
yeah, and
you'll see it in a minute. You'll see it soon. I promise, Robert.
Yeah, and you know, and that's one of the most common arguments that I've heard from them is like that we've never seen new information added. But yeah, but from his question, he was asking specifically about something about dinosaurs coexisting with people 6,000 years ago.
If a subject comes up that Thanks, Eric, for making sure I stayed on topic there. Anyway, when it comes to that particular subject, I don't necessarily argue whether humans or dinosaurs coexisted.
Well,
but
technically they
Birds, yeah, but
still
yeah.
do.
See, there we go. Because that's the kind of shit I have to deal with is, well, technically, yeah. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that there are arguments that I've presented so far that have to do with dinosaurs and humans living together. I've addressed those. If a particular creationist argument happens to be around, have the scientific data for it, or attempt or claim to have the scientific data for that, I will attack that. But as far as trying to make a concerted argument about whether or not humans and dinosaurs live together, that's not for that show. My show is about refuting creationist arguments. It's not even about refuting creationism. It's about refuting creationist arguments. I've kept it that specific. And so if I do that, it'll be whenever I finish my 100th episode, because that'll be my last series episode.
Well,
so when you reached episode 100, so it sounds like that you plan on not doing any more after that?
No, after the 100th episode, I will do them on a case-by-case basis, because I would like to say, yeah, I'd be done, but you and I both know that when you go on to any kind of social media, every once in a while you hear an argument and you go, wait, what? And you have to look it up. You have to find out. And, I can't help but mine that gold.
Well, off topic. Well, for you at least, did some creationists have to come up with new arguments? Because a lot of their arguments are old arguments still.
Okay, did you watch my episode on the particle wave duality of
I've seen almost all your at least twice now.
Okay, I don't know anybody who's ever heard of the biggest comment I get on that particular episode is, I've never heard this argument before. And to be very fair, it took me most of my intros to my shows to take about a minute or less. This one took like 2.5 minutes to be able to express the particle wave duality argument, and it's ultimately about whether something is a wave or a particle, and that it's defined by an observer, and that observer is God, and therefore once something exists as a particle or a wave, it's because God willed it into existence. It's a crazy argument, but it did require some clarification, and so and that was my episode on it. Anyway, just to answer your question, Robert, I am going to go ahead and put the next video up as soon as I finish what I'm learning right now. But I've got to make sure I have my my arguments correct.
Yeah, and there was one that I requested you to do, has one Mexican, alleged Mexican carving of a Ankylosaurus.
I haven't found any information on that.
Yeah, I gave you the name of one of the comments or your videos, but the problem is I forgot which video that it was. Well, you and I are friends on Facebook, so you can. If we're not friends, then by all means, let's friend each other. But because we run into each other all the time there, feel free to give me that reference. I'll be glad to look it up, because I mean, like I said, I don't intend to stop doing the show after the 100th episode. After the 100th episode, I don't intend to do it in series format. Right.
Like I said, telegraph fast about people making these arguments. Like it says, well, here's the first 3 comic books. It's just guys protesting, and says, actually, all lives matter.
Sigh. Of course, all lives matter, dude. The point of the phrase is that Black lives are being treated as expendable by the police and the government that employs them. If someone says rain the forest, you don't say, actually, save all the forest, do you? Just because we need to save the rainforest doesn't mean other forests have to have no value. It's just one needs our focus right now because this situation has gotten out of control, which this situation has happened multiple times throughout history, as I have pointed out.
Yeah.
I guess I never really thought of it that way before. But if I change my mind now, doesn't that make me a hypocrite? Nope. It just means you're growing as a person. Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it was a Tony. Same thing. I also don't make sense. Like a fire. Like a house is on fire. Your neighbor's house is on down the street's on fire. Like my house matters, and the fire people are putting the fire out. It's like, hey, my house matters too. You know, like yeah, your house matters, but your house is on fire right now.
Right, yeah, and to be honest, I was one of those people saying, well, don't all lives matter? But it wasn't until when somebody pointed it out to me, I'm like, you do have a point.
Oh yeah, in this case, it's the most obtuse argument that you could make because nobody is saying that all lives don't matter. It's a pointing out. I guess people don't understand subtext. It's pointing out that you don't seem to be acting like you care about us, but our lives matter too. And
Right.
it's a shame that subtext has to be explained that way. But I mean, if anybody's ever been in an internet discussion, you already know that things get blown out of proportion all the time. And when you reduce you've got to reduce your entire credo into a very easily repeated slogan. So, pardon me. So, Black Lives Matter. It's a great slogan, but at the same time, you're going to face people who want to deface it just because of that particular verbiage, and they want to make the point that there's some kind of assumption that other lives don't matter. And it's a shame that I got to explain that. It's a shame that we have to.
I saw another meme too, where not a meme, but the big point. I think I saw a few years ago. They're like people make a big deal about the cops killing black people, but they don't make a big deal about other people, like black on black crime. And some of us about the point up. Well, yeah, they probably do, but the cops, are supposed to protect people. The criminals aren't supposed to protect criminals. Criminals do criminal stuff. That's their thing. They're criminals. They kill people, but cops or whatever, or people that protect you are supposed to be doing that. They're supposed to obey the law, not make their own law. Someone said.
Not just someone. A lot of people are saying that. And what's interesting about that is, remember when we first talked about doing this show, I told you I wanted to spread positive messages as much as I could. One of the things you'll notice if you've checked your YouTube feed or any kind of news feed, there's police chiefs in New York that are banding with protesters to say, we support you. We're here to defend you against people that are going to do something dangerous. So please, be peaceful. We'll be nice to you. There's a guy who's cried. There's a police chief that's cried with his audience, and it's not just one police chief; it's several. And that's a major thing because I understand being part of a fraternal brotherhood. I mean, I don't want to go into detail on that, but you feel this loyalty to your fellow man in your position that when anybody takes on a brother of yours, you want to beat them down. But this is an interesting break with a police chief that is saying, look, not all of us are jerks. There are jerks among us. We're going to join you against those jerks in the police department. And I don't know. I think that's a good thing. I don't know if anybody agrees, but I think that's a great thing that we've got a group of people nowadays that are starting to get more logistic amongst all these crazy conspiracy theorists.
Well,
Which, yeah, and which what you said actually does go back to what I said about how that this whole situation is unfortunately going to have a bad effect on the reputation of the police. And so yes, I absolutely do agree. As far as protesting, protesting's fine, just as long as you're not destroying someone's property, and just as long as you're not killing people over it. So yeah.
Yeah, that brings our next topic. All these protests, both the peaceful ones and the ones that are just like trashing their neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in a hard place on that one because, once again, I lived through the LA riots. I actually was living in LA during the riots. And so watched.
Was that the one after the Rodney King one?
Yes, when all the cops were found not guilty, I saw black people taking to the street, and I was in a bad neighborhood at the time. When I say a bad neighborhood, it was a crime-ridden neighborhood, and so I saw all of it happening outside my window. And what I also saw was a very severely hitherto considered anti-black president. I'm not saying he was anti-black, but I'm just saying he was considered that way.
That was Bush Senior, right? At the time.
Bush, yes, Bush. No, yeah, it was Bush Senior. He got on the news, and he made this announcement that he was going to retry all 4 of those cops. I believe it was just 4, might have been more. But he said, we're going to retry them. And there was like a wink in his eye that we're going to find him guilty of something. And I thought, at the time, well, this is the first time I've ever seen democracy in action. A group of people were so angry and rising up against the government that the government actually caved in to what they wanted. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that was what people wanted to happen. People made the choice to go out and protest. They made their opinions public, and the government had no choice but to respond in kind.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it was right. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it was right. I'm just saying that was constructive production.
I think legally they couldn't retry him for the murder or whatever because or the attack because you can't once you're in American justice and once you're found innocent you can't be tried again. But I think they took him to civil court then.
Well, no, it's that once you're found not guilty in the civil system, you cannot be convicted without the presentation of new evidence. And that's what was done is they presented new evidence.
I thought maybe they took him to civil court instead of criminal court. That's something else I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it was just there was quite a bit of new evidence that had come up since the trial by that time.
Or maybe the evidence had always been there. They just hid it and like, oh, now you can bring this out now.
Or maybe they just threw out the law altogether because the people were rebelling. I'm not saying. Don't get me wrong. Anybody wants to misquote me here. I'm not saying it was a good thing, but it is a fact that that was probably the last time I've ever seen democracy in its true form prevail. I'm very glad to see maybe people are paying attention this time, though, and so maybe we don't have to see nearly as much violence to see change.
There was protests like a city away from me, like I live in Vandalia, Ohio, and right south of me is Dayton, Ohio. So there's like some protesters there. Was there any protests like in like Las Vegas or where you live?
Yes, there were a lot of protests. They didn't end up on the news because very few people destroyed anything. Strangely enough, most of us that live in Las Vegas, when you like to come here to party and be crazy and all that stuff, we just want quiet. And so we went out. I wasn't one of them, but most of the Las Vegas residents, they went out and they protested, and that's where it ended. There was in fact, if I'm not mistaken, there have been no arrests associated with any of the Las Vegas protests. I'm not saying we're good people. In fact, I'm pretty sure there are people that would argue that somebody in Vegas is actually quite evil. but we didn't want to kill each other. That's for damn sure. And we didn't want to rob your property. So, yeah, that happened. By the way, Robert asked a question. Have any of the three of us ever been married?
That's a random question. But
I
yeah.
know. I just want to make sure that Robert knows that I would never marry either of these guys.
Oh, come on, Tony. I know that I'm sexy.
Yes, I am. I'm actually married.
Nice. But yeah, I have not been married.
Neither have I.
With my last girlfriend, I was planning on asking her to marry me, but then I found out that she cheated on me, so I dodged a bullet.
Oh, man.
That would have been so much worse if we actually would have gotten married.
I don't know. Maybe you could have held that over her head the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah.
So what about you, Eric? Any protests in Montana?
Yes, there have been. As far as my understanding goes, it's mostly been in the downtown area where I live, and the downtown area is like the oldest part of town. Ironically enough, I'm going to be going downtown later on, like for karaoke, like with some friends, and so maybe when I'm on my way there, I might see some protesters. But yeah, from what I've heard, the protesters here have not gone violent, and they haven't done any of that crazy stuff, which I definitely do appreciate.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And yeah, and I saw now, and it didn't happen here where I live, but somewhere else there was like an entire city burnt. Now, I don't know how true that is, but if it is, that's just scary.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I think I've seen people bring both good and bad point to this. You know, it's bad that, and I agree that it's bad that people are looting, you know, and stuff. But also sometimes, you know, you need. People talk about sometimes you need to sometimes you need to escalate stuff to bring your point out. Sometimes, you know, because sometimes you gotta have your make. I see both sides of this. You know, sometimes you have if they're not listening, you got to make your voice a little bit louder.
Yeah, there are some people who are too stubborn for their own good, and words just don't do anything. And it's like recently I got into an argument with a creationist in my in the comment section on my Kent Hovind debate. He was arguing the Echo Stones and the T-Rex soft tissue, and I continuously pointed out to him about how none of that like would disprove evolution, and how none of that would even prove the Earth is 6,000 years old anyway. I sent him all the peer-reviewed papers and whatnot, but then he was still going on anyway, showing me these links from Answers in Genesis. And I'm like, this is such a fruitless conversation.
Yeah, what do you do at that point in time? Because especially like, I'm on a lot of boards, and I'm having discussions with people all the time. And every once in a while, I'll see something so badly argued that I feel like I have to respond to it. And it's not because they're wrong. It's because I don't want them spreading that crap around to everybody else. And then, like, for example, there's one guy recently that I argued with, and I was presenting peer-reviewed papers, and in the end, he rejected the idea of peer review and then came up with some other standard entirely for what constitutes science. And, I mean, ultimately, my default argument is, does it have any application? Can we do anything with it? Does it help you invent anything? And of course that leads to a whole rabbit hole of other arguments. So it's alarming what I've seen, and I don't know what to do with that. I don't know if it's better to just block that person and not deal with them, or if I should continue to destroy their arguments.
Yeah,
I would say that I'm sorry, man, you can go right ahead. Sorry.
I can say that's the reason. One of the reasons I'm doing that other series I'm doing. You know, the Kent Volution series. Like people like they like ignorant. They lump all science together in one subject. You know, it's like Kent does evolution. You're like oh, this is evolution. Like, no, it's not. So it's all wrong.
Yeah. Evolution is biology. I mean, yeah, it's separate from astronomy, and whatnot. Now, here's what I say. So, if they get to the point like where they get really, really rude, then that is when I will block them. Like there was one young Earth creationist who commented on my Ken Hovind debate. He was being really, really rude to me, you know. And then he said that he wanted me to do a video with him. And then I called him out saying, "Yeah, there is no way that I'm going to do a video with you when you're being that rude to me, you know. Maybe if you wouldn't have been so rude, then yes, I would do it." And so and then he was just further proving my point, you know, like by continuously insulting me and whatnot. And then, you know, trying to argue with him was just really pointless. And then eventually I thought, you know, the only thing I really can do now, like, is just block him. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that all young Earth creationists are like this. I have met like some young Earth creationists who actually are genuinely nice people, but a lot of them, especially the ones on the internet, like, and especially Kent Hovind supporters, they are some of the most effrontery and rude people that I have ever seen.
I can't say I disagree with that. I mean, that's kind of part of his marketing campaign, is this cavalier idea that you have something over on the person you're arguing with. I had a debate with him where, you know, it was about what are the real world applications of your point of view. And I kept pointing out all the real world applications. He kept avoiding that subject. He kept saying, well, you can't explain this. I'm like, yeah, I get it. We can't explain that. We're talking about real world applications here. And in the end, we were supposed to make our final statements, but he just, nah, I'm done. And that was the end of the argument, or the end of the debate. I try to keep it, most of my debates, I try to keep it to what can we do with your point of view. If you believe that the world was created in 6 days, what can we do with that? Can we develop a new polio vaccine? Because we can, by using the assumption of common descent. Can we find gold, or can we find coal or oil with your point of view? Because if you can't, I can tell you this: we can find oil, we can find gold, and we can find coal to power ourselves to actually, you know, create the devices we're using to access the internet. In fact, the internet itself exists because we can use uniformitarianism to find these minerals. I go over that. I've never gotten a decent response to that. Kent Hovind himself, in the end, that's one of the reasons why he probably walked out of the conversation, is because, I mean, he didn't have an argument at that point in time. At that point, that was it. I mean, there was nothing for him.
Well, at least he didn't pour water on his computer to get out our argument.
Yeah.
But
like that whole thing, like that happened, like when I was supposed to debate him the second time, and then he bailed.
Yeah, I'll top again. Yeah, I've heard people make a bigger deal about the looting than they did the murder of the guy. Like people make a big deal, like bring up the sin, like Chris. They're both sins, you know. So they're both the same. Like, no, they're not both the same. Joint property is bad, but, you know, murder is murder.
Definitely agree. Murder is murder. I think, unfortunately, the situation we're in is if you have one point of view, you must be opposed to other point of views, and that's not the case. You can feel that George Floyd was.
Yeah.
You can feel that it was it was wrong that he was that he was killed by cops. You can feel that cops are not all bad, and you can also feel that it's wrong to destroy property and loot. You can do all of those things. It's just like you can be all for gun rights and be all against, I don't know, let's just say limiting abortion. You can be both.
Yeah.
These are different subjects, but for some reason, our society tends to associate all of certain views together.
It's all or nothing, black and white, all or nothing.
The world is not black and white. The world, if you haven't noticed, is full color.
Yeah, like the gun right thing. The people, you know, that from I've seen, the people that are, you know, wanting to get more gun restrictions. They're not saying take away everyone's guns. They're saying, hey, let's limit people, you know, with, you know, criminal backgrounds or like mental problems getting the guns. Not like they're not saying, hey, go to every house and take your guns away.
Yeah, so when it comes to me and gun laws, and so growing up in the house of a dad of an FBI agent, of course, he had to carry around a gun, and of course, he had some very, very strict rules about guns. You know, my dad didn't want me near a gun. He didn't want my brother near a gun, which I absolutely do understand that. Guns are not toys. So I'm pretty open-minded about it. I try to understand both sides of the argument as best as I can. Now, this is just my own personal opinion. Now I can understand having the right to freedom of bear arms, you know, just so you can protect yourself in your own home in case of, I don't know, a robber or who knows what comes in. I totally understand that. But do I also understand, like, that they want to have restrictions, like what you just said, like with all these shootings and whatnot, like doing a background check and whatnot? I absolutely do understand that. And so do I think that some guns are unnecessary to have in homes? I do think so. I do think that there are some guns that, you know, that you do not need. Like, I don't think that you need like a Tommy gun or anything. Like a rifle or a pistol, I think that those are fine. But if you're going to own a gun, I definitely really do think that there should be a background check. You know, like to see if you have like a past history of like violent acts or anything like that. And yeah, just as long as you don't it's just as long as you don't point it at me, then you don't point it at anybody else, not for the purpose of trying to protect yourself, then that's just my own opinion. So yeah, like I said, I am pretty open-minded about it. I try to put myself in both shoes.
Well, I wasn't trying to bring up a conversation about gun control laws, since
Which had led to
that's come up
anyway
recently. Yeah, sorry about that. That wasn't a can of worms I was hoping to open. I was just saying that you know, one of the biggest problems we have right now is that it's the news, not the news. Sorry, the punditry. Like when I say those three networks, those three cable networks, they are not presenting news. They're presenting their opinions of the news. There are actual news networks that are legally mandated to present news, and they're being downplayed because of what's, like, for example, CNN is doing or what Fox is doing. But they're not Fox or CNN. They're just presenting the news, and they're not giving an opinion on it. And that is what's unfortunate, is that what we're getting our news from is opinions. And even worse in our today and nowadays, especially, even though we have plenty of time to actually watch the news outlets, we're still getting our news from memes on Facebook and other social media, which doesn't help at all, because who's fact checking that? Nobody's fact checking that. My friends hate me because when they post something and they don't bother to look it up, even if they're like, it's a point that I agree with, like, you know, I don't want to bring up a point, but even on things I agree with, I got to look it up because I might want to repeat that. I might want to echo that somewhere else. And I look it up, and this is BS. Come on, why didn't you look this up? I'm so disappointed in you. And then suddenly, I get painted as having a particular ideology, and I don't subscribe to any ideology. I actually care about what I can verify, and sometimes it's liberal that I can verify, and sometimes it's conservative what I can verify, and sometimes it's neither Republican or Democrat. So it's a bad situation we're in where everybody wants to paint things in black and white. It isn't black and white. It's full color. Look at it.
And yeah, and the same thing happened like when like that pandemic documentary was first posted online. All my friends were posting it, and some of them even sent me it as a message on Facebook saying, "Dude, check this out. This will blow your mind." But something inside was telling me that I need to look into this, and that I shouldn't just believe it just for the sake of believing it. I mean, you should never ever believe something just for the sake of believing it. And you shouldn't just believe somebody because I say so. Because if you do that, well, then that's just the logical fallacy of appealing to authority. But it's not appealing to authority though. Like if it's an expert in that field, then yeah. And then I felt like that I need to investigate this, and I did. And then I replied back to all my friends who messaged me on Facebook saying, dude, you need to be careful, like to just not believe every single thing like they see on the internet.
I've also noticed that there's certain videos that have been produced that you constantly hear have been removed. And what I've noticed is that what's been removed have been the mirrors of the original video. And it's as if that the original video is there and not promoted, but then the mirrors that the very same producers of the original video have put out and then have promoted via SEO or something like that, they end up being quite popular and then removed because they filed a copyright strike against that video, which was their own video produced on another channel that they happen to also own. I've seen that happen. And that was, when you think about it, that was one of the biggest things. When you thought about when you think about it, every single time you saw the pandemic video, it was always, watch this before it gets taken down again. And then next thing you know, you type in pandemic and one or two links show up on YouTube, and then you get to watch it. It never was taken down. It's just, I mean, maybe I can't say for sure whether they filed a copyright strike up against their own channel, but it looks like they did. But I mean, that whole thing is, I mean, most people probably watching this video don't even remember the pandemic video because it made that much impact.
I never even heard of it until Eric mentioned it.
Really?
I actually am surprised.
Yeah, that was
all over Facebook and everything.
All right, so now we made you feel silly. Sorry.
Well, I guess either I didn't notice it, or I didn't pay attention to it, or I ignored it, or I just ignored things, or I just ignored like, oh, another conspiracy theory, whatever. Don't care.
Also, yeah. I got to say that I have a fetish for really bad movies, and so whenever I hear "demic" in any movie, I always think of the movie Birdemic.
Oh yeah, that piece of crap.
Yes, and so because of that,
oh man,
every time I hear "Plandemic," blah blah blah, I think it's got to be a shitty movie. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh man, I haven't thought about that movie in forever, and
why would you?
Yeah, it was really bad. But at least I can laugh at it. It's just that, if I'm going to watch a bad movie, I would rather laugh at it. And yeah, that would have had to have been done on purpose. But yeah, it's just the effects and And believe it or not, you probably do know this. There actually was a sequel.
Yes, played. Birdemic too. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah,
what
I saw reviews of that
First
over
time
on.
wasn't bad enough, apparently.
Yeah, I saw reviews of that movie, both movies on this channel I watch called Fayless. But he's a comedian thing, but
I
saw the
believe
reviews.
even then the Nostalgia Critic reviewed at least the first one.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I really love is that we started this show talking about crappy movies, and this
Man,
we
now
brought
we're
it.
back here again talking about bad movies.
Yeah,
But
Maybe this whole situation
what
is a
would you
bad
say?
movie.
But what would you all say is the worst movie you've ever seen? I mean, a movie that was so bad like that it actually pissed you off.
Mine would have to be. If we get back on topic, mine would have to be. No, I saw in the 90s. It was this Noah's Ark, movie about Noah's Ark. It's Noah's wife was played by the lady that played Doc Brown's wife in Back to the Future 3.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
And-
Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah, I that was her. I remember correctly, but yeah,
That's how much of a movie geek I am.
And in the Noah's Ark movie, apparently Noah was friends with Lot because Sodom and Gomorrah happened during that time of that movie. For the Sodom and Gomorrah happened before the flood, and as the Bible back, Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah happened way after the flood, not before the flood. So like the whole pillar of salt thing was happening during the flood time too in that movie. They both can smash all those things together. I'm like, this is back in the 90s when I was full churchgoer. I'm like, what the hell? Don't you know your own Bible?
Yeah, I have not heard of that version of Noah's Ark. But yeah, I have seen the one like with Russell Crowe. It was okay. Yeah, it was just okay. But yeah, for me, mainstream,
Yes.
I really hated Jack and Jill with Adam Sandler. I really hated that movie. That movie was so annoying. But I also really hated the Lion King remake. It's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, the Lion King remake, I don't really mind that much because it's the Lion King remake. It was pretty much the Lion King was pretty much a copy. Other than the other movies, the Lion King is pretty much copy paste of the cartoon,
Which made it so pointless. And it's like, why not just go watch the original? Man, in the remake, it wasn't done as good. So I'm like, if it's not going to be done as good, then what's the point?
At least the other remakes, like Dalmatians or Aladdin, whatever, they changed up some stuff. But the Lion King is basically copy paste.
And then the director Jon Favreau said that he did that. It's because of how the Lion King is so beloved, and I don't want to change too much. If I change too much, people will complain. Then I'm like, well, then maybe that's a sign you just shouldn't do a remake. It's because of how the Lion King, the original, was done so well that if you can't do it better, then there's no point. And I hated what they did with Be Prepared. It was so short. It's like, how dare you ruin one of the greatest villain songs ever in movie history? And I hated the new guy who got a scar. He just was not as menacing as Jeremy Irons. And the fact that the animals were so realistic, they had no emotion to them whatsoever. And The Lion King is supposed to be a very emotional story. So then therefore, you take away one of the components that made the original work. And that's why The Lion King just doesn't work if it's going to be that realistic. And as far as not mainstream films go, that there was an animated Titanic movie. I don't know if Odie probably has heard of it. It's where there's a rapping dog, and
which one is like the three? There's like 3 Titanic movies out there, and they all suck.
Yeah, all 3 of them are just as bad. But yeah, one of them has a rapping dog.
Oh, Speaking of that, of movies, pretty much. I know it's a meme. I know it's a meme right now, but I agree with that. Pretty much every video game movie.
Okay, hold on. Before we go too much further, first of all, I want to answer the 3 points that have been brought up. The first one is I didn't like The Lion King to begin with. I know I'm alone in that thinking. I get it. I didn't like it. I thought it was a silly movie.
Why not?
It doesn't matter. It
Maybe
doesn't matter.
maybe because you're old.
Number
maybe
2.
you're old.
The question is, what is the
Girl.
worst movie you've ever seen? The second question is, what is the worst movie you've ever seen? I had been told for decades that this movie was awesome by all my friends that are bikers. And I watched it, and it was crap on a lever tape. And that is Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man with Don Johnson and Mickey Rourke. If you ever get a chance to watch it,
Never seen it.
just say no. Okay. And then the third thing is when they remake movies, they should not remake good movies. They should remake crappy movies and make them better.
Exactly.
There are movies like there's a movie in the 80s called Suburbia about a bunch of punk kids that live in this they're just living in a house that isn't theirs. I mean, they're living there illegally and they try to survive. It's a great movie, except that it was done on like probably $50,000 budget. Make a better version of that. Don't make a better version of a movie that was already perfection.
Oh, speaking of before we move on to the next topic, speaking of remakes and stuff, this is me personally, my opinion. When you're rebooting something, you're remaking something, I think you should at least wait a little while before you reboot something. Like Spider-Man has been rebooted like 3 times in the last 10 years.
Well, those were more of reboots, so they technically really weren't remakes. But having to sit through the origin all over again, man, the Amazing Spider-Man, that was so tedious, and that's why I was so glad, like the Tom Holland Spider-Man, we didn't have to sit through that again.
Yeah, actually, that's the brilliant part about it is that first of all, that was not about them needing to reboot. That was about them needing to hang on to the contractual agreement to own that property. Unfortunately, there's so much legal and financial stuff behind movies that it's very hard to make a movie these days without appealing to an entire board of corporate executives, especially nowadays. Because there was a time when $1 million budget would have seemed amazing, and in fact, if I had $1 million budget, I might be able to make a really good movie because I got nothing. I have no desire to put a bunch of special effects into a movie. I want to make a good movie. But what I've noticed with Spider-Man is that, suddenly Sony and Fox, aka Disney, realized that, we don't need to have everybody seeing everything again. In fact, I would have preferred if somehow they'd gotten Sony to agree to have Deadpool at the beginning of the first Spider-Man movie to say, yeah, you've already heard this story before, but this guy's here, and then just go on.
That would have been perfect.
Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
It's like me and Tony are old people now. So, but we've lived through at least four Turtle cartoon reboots now.
That is is that true?
I think there's a fourth one out now. There was the 80s one, and there was the 2002 one, and there's a 2012 one, and I think now they have I'm not positive, but I think they have a one based on the Michael Bay cartoon.
Okay, so you're not including the cartoon one.
Well, yeah, I am, but I think I'm not positive. I think they made a cartoon based on the Michael Bay movies.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Actually, I was reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics before they got popular, and I was one of those younger people that thought I was punk and different. And so I thought I was being subversive by reading those comics. And then because in the 80s, I was, 86 is when I entered high school. by the time the 90s came around and the Turtles became popular, I was one of those people who's like, this is a sacrilege for you to make this show. And I have to admit that the explanation they gave in the show for how the Turtles existed was better than the one that was in the comics. I'll give you that. But the show sucked. And but I mean, the comic was not anywhere as silly. It was brutal. It was dark. It was much more like the movie, the first movie, but it was dark and just subversive. And so when we're going to talk about that, I can get emotional, but I've chosen to be a non-combatant for most of the Turtle history.
But speaking of Turtle, it's like a longer. But speaking of Turtle history, watching the cartoon, that back then I got something in my brain, you know how you sometimes you're so set in your ways that you can't do anything else. Like for me at least, Charles, I prefer the Splinter that became a rat man than the vice versa. I don't like the rat became a human Splinter. I like the other way around. I like the human became a rat Splinter.
That's exactly what I was talking about. Because in the original comic, it's exactly how it happened in the movie. The original comic, the rat learned kung fu. It wasn't the other way around. Whereas in the comic or in the cartoon, it was a human who became associated with rats and became a rat, and that made more sense. That was the one thing I will say they improved. But other than that, the tone of the show sucked compared to the comic book.
And then when Michael Bay tried to reboot it, originally he tried to make them aliens, and he got so much backlash about that.
Yes, he did.
But then he put in the learning kung fu from a kung fu dummies karate dummy handbook.
But the backlash compared to that to Sonic's original design in the movie, oh man. I mean, Paramount deserved all that backlash that they got for Sonic's original design. I mean, he looked creepy.
I can't imagine any design that would work for Sonic in an actual 3D world. It just won't work. In fact, you know what? You were just talking about all the video game movies. Uwe Boll has shown all of us that maybe video games shouldn't be made into movies.
But at least that Sonic was decent enough. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but as far as video game movies go, it could have been a lot worse, especially with that original design. But I definitely will say like that. I thought that Jim Carrey stole the whole show.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a minute. I'm actually I'm having an issue here. I've got to make sure I understood you correctly. Are you saying that the Sonic movie has actually come out?
Yes, it has. The Sonic movie came out back in February, and the Sonic movie actually did pretty well at the box office, considering all like this coronavirus stuff, and actually came out on DVD and Blu-ray about a few weeks ago.
No way.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay. All right.
But anyways, let's talk topic. Some people, I've seen some people on Facebook think that this is a good idea. They're all for this.
The president threatened to.
Like to stop the protesters, he's threatening. He says, "I'm gonna if the governments can't do it, I'm gonna bring the military in on and stop the protesting."
Well, for some places, I mean, if what I said about the city getting burnt down is true, then I can understand why they might have to resort to that if it gets crazy enough. But I say it would depend on the circumstances.
I don't know what to say about that. I mean, sicking the U.S. Well, first of all, the phrasing is strange, but yeah, sicking the U.S. military on our own country. I don't know if there's any more looting or destruction going on. Is there? I haven't heard about it.
I don't think either, but I think it happened at the time, But yeah, I think it's more of a. But yeah,
what are you going to do? Are you going to attack people that are now peacefully demonstrating? I don't know what's going on there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a group of people that are right now destroying property as we're discussing it. I'm not watching the news right now, but I don't know of anybody that is now. I think it was last weekend, and you know what? It wouldn't be the first time I've been out of style. So who knows?
Maybe that's a big deal as it was back then. But yeah, but I've seen people like posting pictures, or whatever of troops like in Washington D.C. or whatever, or here they're guarding like everywhere, and they're like awesome, like yeah, that'll stop them. But then there's also in my opinion, the flip side of that. Where do we go from protecting? If you stick to the military in your own country, where do you go from like the line between protecting your citizens and making like a police state or whatever, or like a military police state? The military's everywhere. Like where's that line there? Sometimes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I'm not. I'm not a big supporter of Trump, but I don't automatically cast aspersions that he's got this evil agenda either. I just don't like him, and I don't think he's done anything at all. I think he's done a great job of executing what Congress has told him to do, which is what the president's job is to begin with. So I don't really have much of an opinion on his policies at all. I don't think all of this is his policy, but he is. I just don't have that much hatred for him. I do dislike him. I just don't have that much hatred for him. I know he says some crappy stuff, but if I was held to account for everything I've ever said in my life, man, I'd probably be in prison or something right now.
I made a joke one time. I made a joke about the president. One time I think he's the only president that's not going to have gray hair. Hair's not going to go gray after he's out of office.
Yeah, which says quite a bit. It's because I saw this one picture, side by side comparison of Barack Obama before he was president and then after. Yeah, I mean, as far as gray hairs and whatnot, there was a huge difference.
Barack, Bush Jr., Clinton, they all
of them. Yeah. Well, I mean, nobody ever thought for a second that Donald Trump's hair was his own. I mean, even the color. When I first saw him, he was a brunette. So now he's blonde. Obviously, there's been some kind of chemical change there. He didn't change his genetics. But what's interesting is I'd love to know what hair augmentations he's had. And it's not because it's a judgment. I just like to know what they were, because I work in a building, and you would not believe this. This is freaking crazy. One of the companies that's in the same building where I work is the Hair Club for Men. And so I see some crazy mops coming in and out of their office.
You ever tried that?
No. Do you see that? Do I look like I've tried Hair Club for Men? No, I got rid of it all. No. But I see that all the time. The craziest rugs on people's heads. I would love to find out if he's part of that or the Bosley system, which are, by the way, the same company. Just in case you didn't know.
Speaking of hair, the last haircut I had was back in January, maybe early February. So I've had a haircut in like 6 months now. So
but I'm not going to need a haircut anytime soon. It was because before the pandemic, I had like this certain hairstyle where the sides were shaved and then that was combed. But then during the pandemic, a friend of mine asked me if I'll be willing to donate my hair, like for charity. I was like, hey, screw it. So and then I thought, hey, it's hair and it will grow back anyway. And I thought that, hey, with the pandemic, all the salons are shut down anyway. And so yeah, you two might have seen that picture, like where I did shave my head and yeah, and a lot of my friends were so shocked, like, you're bald. But yeah, but one of the things about being bald is like when you wear a hat, it feels kind of, I guess, weird to like to wear a hat and whatnot compared to when you do have hair. And yeah, it was because I was bald for a while, like was why that I would just wear a hat. And so yeah.
I'm sure you've heard about. You both probably heard of this incident that happened last week. The
attack on peaceful protesters at the Bible. I think I vaguely recall something like that.
Apparently, there's this church next to the White House, like a famous church. Apparently these protesters were seen there peacefully. Apparently, and even the priest or the pastors of that church were handing out water, and stuff. And then all of a sudden, they got tear gassed and run away. Even the pastor, the priest got tear gassed too. So the president could go over there, hold up a Bible for the church and say, and smile.
Never heard anything about it. Yeah.
Apparently, he even held it upside down. You look it up. It's and they said that the president's men were said that they're writing whatever, but then the opposite side, they actually had news media there. They got chased away too, and the news media showed that they were all being nice and sitting there quietly.
That's an interesting question. I'm actually wondering. There had to have. I've been to a lot of public demonstrations, and I can't. I can't think of a single one I've been to where there wasn't a Christian group protesting in favor of whatever I was talking about. If I was protesting in favor of evolution, there are Christians that will show up and protest in favor of that. I wonder how many protesters might have shown up at the protest that we're talking about that might have been publicly Christian, and it'd be interesting to find out if there was any like footage of Christian groups protesting against the treatment of black people by the police. It would be very interesting to see if there was you know what? I don't know for sure, but I will bet money that there was at least one Christian group protesting against the police treatment of black people.
Yeah. So you can look it up. It's the look up president on Google. I remember presidential Bible op.
Yeah, I honestly really haven't heard a whole lot about it, so I can't really comment a whole lot about it. So, so what you two have been saying really has been news to me.
Be right back, guys.
Okay.
I think I don't know if I can share it, but yeah, I think I can find it real fast. Hold on.
So yeah, so any topics after that?
Yeah, one more. But
yeah. I do have to get going here soon, so
yeah, I just want to wait for Tony to come back.
Okay.
How many things?
I do have to use the restroom really quick, so I'll be right back.
All right, no problem. Shandon, there was one. All right. Right. Oh, you're back. Yeah, I
What?
linked
Did Eric go away too?
the bathroom. Yeah, I linked the video. I linked one of the videos I found in the chat for you in the private chat. You know, you can look it up. One of the this is an opinion piece on it, of course, but you can look it. You can look at face on it if you want to.
Okay.
All right. But finally, the last one. Yeah, it was a.
Hey, by the way, Robert Burkinson.
Guess who's back? Back
Hey.
again. Eric's back.
Here's the last thing that
So
sorry.
Robert mentioned that I'm the first person that he's ever heard of that said they didn't like the original Lion King. I might be the first person he's ever heard of who's never even seen The Little Mermaid.
You've never seen The Little Mermaid?
That's exactly the cue I expected you to say. It's almost like I handed you a script.
Well, technically, I didn't see the whole movie either. I saw bits and pieces of it because at the time it came out, the first Disney movie I really saw was Rescuers and Aladdin. Because when I was growing up, the little, in my opinion, when I was 8 and 10, you know, the Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast were girl movies. You're like, oh, I don't want to see a girl movie. Ugh.
But yeah, Tony, I'm guessing that you're just not really much of a Disney guy.
Not so much. No, I mean I don't hate
So that's
them.
probably why.
Not a big deal. But I mean, like Pete's Dragon, the original one, I loved that movie. I loved a few of their 80s movies. Apple Dumpling Gang, I liked that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but for some reason, once they got into their sort of Disney Renaissance or something, where they got into their animation thing, where they were doing a new movie every year, I just didn't like the stories that much. They were all right. I mean, on a case by case basis, like I enjoyed Aladdin, but it wasn't great, and I thought that the 3D animation was terrible. But it was. I mean, I've just never been a big. I'm not a studio fan. I don't really care what the studio is. I care more about the filmmaker, and more importantly, I care about the film itself. And I just did not really like the Lion King, and I just didn't find myself motivated to watch The Little Mermaid. And I'll eventually. I know I need to watch it. I will watch it. I just can't imagine myself enjoying it.
So
Yeah, I feel the same way like about Venom, and you know, I just don't really feel obligated to see it. It's because of, you know, some of the reviews I've heard. But let's get on topic. It's because I do have to get going here soon.
Yeah, so you hear about this one?
Isn't that the one that took place in a parking lot?
Or on the it was more like on some kind of courthouse steps, I think.
Then I must have not have seen it.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
Look it up. Look it up too, I guess. But yeah, this like 75-year-old guy, you know, was replacing the police, and the police went to like riot police, and the police shoved him back. The guy fell back, his head on the cement, and started bleeding. One of the cops tried to stop him. One of the cops tried to go over there and help him. The other cop pulled him back and made him keep going.
Jeez, that's
it's on camera. Oh, and then it was on camera too. But before that, for the cameras before the footage was revealed, apparently the cops were saying that he tripped and fell.
Really?
That the cops have been fired now. That happened, but yeah, the cops were saying the guy tripped and fell. But then in the video, you can clearly see him being shoved back.
So yeah, so he was definitely.
This was a older white guy. It was black. But yeah, you can literally see, boom.
I don't know. I have no opinion on it. I have no opinion on it
either. But yeah, minus the fact that it's kind of messed up that from what you told me, it's pretty messed up that he lied and whatnot, saying that he fell when he was obviously tripped. Other than that, I got nothing.
Yeah, and it's the last one I got for it. Some guy named Tony Reed.
Yeah, I think you might have met him once before.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think that they're like I think that right now they're still I'm not sure they spread out much, but I think that right now they're still in the Pacific Northwest, I think the thing. But yeah, all I heard about them is that I don't know the murder part, unless you're killing, it's because they're murdering honeybees and attacking our honey supply.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. The panic over it was definitely unjustified. But what was messed up for me is the measures to which people would go to illustrate that. And one of the things that people would say is, well, have you ever heard of a tarantula hawk? This isn't the first time we've had these. And they're not even in the same genus. They're not even in the same family. They might be in the same order, but they're not even they're not closely related at all, and they look completely different. But if you watch a few of the a few of the memes that are going around on social media, they would have said that they are the same as the tarantula hawk. They are not a tarantula hawk. It's a completely different species by far.
Yeah. Yeah, what I've seen was what I saw was about how the bees over in Japan can deal this thing, but the bees over here can't. Like the bees over in Asia,
I do have to get going here soon. So I do not know how much longer you two plan on.
Probably about a few more minutes left.
Okay, well, I think I'll wrap things up for me. Thank you all so much for having me on. I go by Eric Beerthaler 92 on YouTube, but I do have a second account. On my second account is Eric the Tyrannoceratops. And so Robert asked a question: what are your three religious views? I am a theistic evolutionist. And yeah, Tony, I believe you're an atheist, right?
Depending on your definition of atheist, yeah. It seems like nobody seems to want to agree on that, and I don't want to open that can of worms right now as you're trying to sign off. But if I need to clarify what my views are, I'm open to the idea that there is a God, but I don't see any evidence for it. But yeah, that's fine.
I'm right now. I'm on the fence right now. Either or.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I really gotta get going now. Thank you all. Bye.
But like I said, all I heard about the hornets was in Japan, in Asia, the bees can deal with them. Over here in America, they can't.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I've been told that there were, but the thing is, most of what I've heard is through mainstream media, and it's not that I'm criticizing mainstream media for being wrong. It's that they have to summarize the real world into easily digestible bites for the average person to understand, and the average person is different. There's no such thing as an average person. Some people understand things differently. They have different views. And so a lot of bells and whistles on what the science is gets left out. And so I haven't bothered to do the time to do any research on murder hornets, especially since they don't affect my life.
Yeah.
So I haven't done it.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing that affect is, for me at least, so no near my area, is maybe if I want honey in the future, they might affect that if they do kill bees, because the only thing they seem to murder is bee larvae. From what I've seen, I don't think they murder humans. If you're a fan of bees and stuff and pollination, then yeah, they might affect you, attacking the bee population.
I don't know. Did honey get more expensive recently? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Well, not bees don't really pollinate honey too. They pollinate lots of stuff. Apparently, a lot of flowers and trees are affected by bee pollination now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's no doubt that bees are important to our life. The idea of, in fact, if we can just kind of abandon the subject that we were going on for the show to begin with, one of the big arguments that they have against evolution is this idea of symbiosis. Like, how did these different groups start depending on each other? And there's a number of great reasons, but what we also don't realize is that we as a species, we are dependent on several other species to live. Bees are one of them. Bacteria. There's at least as many bacteria cells in our bodies as there are human cells. We are a symbiote, whether we want to believe it or not. And, dogs probably, as Erica said in her video, probably one of the most effective interspecial, I'm going to say symbiosis ever, is that we worked together with dogs, and that they were possibly the most effective ally we could have had in our early history. And so I forgot where I was going with this, but essentially, I like to look at it that way, especially with the bacteria. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, apparently, the hornets work is that a scout, goes there, the thing, and lays a pheromone. The beehive, they lay a pheromone there, and they attract the pheromone attracts other hornets, and the hornets, go kill. They rip the bees apart and eat the larva. But then, and over in Asia, via evolution, natural selection, the other way is the scout comes in there, and they comes in there, but the bees there lure them in somehow, and the bees surround the hornet and like in a ball and beat their wings so fast it pretty much cooks the hornet alive.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. That they've developed natural selection, the way they get rid of the hornets. That's what survived. But over here in America, our bees haven't developed that situation yet, so it's an open market for there.
Well, that's probably the reason why we have the concept of invasive species. I mean, there's a particular species of fish that has been released into the rivers of the eastern United States that was from Japan that is deadly. It's just killing every other fish that's around. And basically, I don't know what the name of the fish is. I apologize. I wish I did. But it is invasive, and because it wasn't brought there naturally, it's like you just released a demon into heaven. It's enjoying the hell out of itself, and it is proliferating at a crazy rate. And so maybe they're promoting the idea of hunting this fish, but nobody wants to eat this fish. It's one of those fish that you keep in an aquarium. And so there's just no way to get rid of this fish. But to get back to what I was saying, yes, when I was talking about symbiotic species, whether we like it or not, we are symbiotes with bees as well. We would not be able to eat a lot of our food if it wasn't for them.
But yeah, so time is up. So you're still in training for your next subject, right? Your next video, like you're learning. You're in school right now, apparently, or we're in school at least before the pandemic hit.
I was in school and I still am in school. I will be finishing up very soon, and it'll be sooner than you probably think. But yeah, I'm taking courses in information theory, which yeah, it's not so much trying to understand information theory. It's understanding how to make it accessible to the average person. I like to think, and I may be wrong here, but I like to think that my show, I do a very good job of making things accessible to the average person. And the worst thing you could say after watching, to me, the worst comment I could get at the end of an episode is, well, I didn't understand a damn thing you said. And that I've gotten that a couple times, and I felt like it was a total failure, because I just want to explain science in a way that anybody could understand without too much scientific knowledge. And so right now with information theory, not easy to explain, which is probably why there aren't too many answers to the creationist arguments.
Oh, so is your things for all the last remaining 4 or 5 videos of your show, or just for that one video?
Well, that's actually for the next video. The other ones I pretty much have ready to go. It's just that I plan them in a certain order, and I plan them in a certain way to build. And maybe it won't be obvious to anybody else watching it, but for me, it's satisfying.
Okay.
Because I mean, I've got another episode coming up on how like people like Mark Armitage claims that he's squelched from academia, and the things about what he's done and what happened to him. I'm addressing that as part of a thing about academic squelching. I've got another episode coming up I've got a lot of episodes coming up, like 6 or 7 episodes coming up, and I might, and like I said, even after the 100th episode, I'm still going to be coming out with episodes. It's just they won't be. I won't want anybody to expect them on a weekly basis.
Yeah, other episode. I like all your episodes. Some of my favorite are your 20th episodes. You know, where you make corrections, you know, and you do like hey, these people corrected me and they were right.
Well, that's what I hope would give me credibility, is that look, I was wrong, and here's who proved me wrong, and they should be commended for it. And what I've done over the years is, I mean, when I first started it, I just did it, and I did it deadpan. But now I just make fun of myself, because why not? Why not make fun of myself for getting things wrong?
Also, like the people complaining, like first people complain that your intro was too long, then they're complaining it was too short.
Yeah, I've gotten that. I've gotten a few people that complain the initial. Well, yeah, I think the one I've got now works perfectly for most people. Although Steve McRae thinks I should go back to the first one, because it's so cheesy looking, and I guess there's a great artistic or aesthetic view for that, but I really like the new one or the most recent one, because it kind of for me it has more punch. But with those episodes where I'm calling myself on my own errors, those are actually the most fun to make. I don't mind being wrong. I really don't mind being wrong. I correct myself when I'm wrong, and that's a virtue that I don't see in the people I'm refuting.
Yeah, the funny thing, one of those I remember you. I remember where you said you had two gay lions on the ark. They both.
Yeah, people were giving me a bunch of crap about the 2 gay lions, but you know what? How do you know? Maybe they might have been considered holy animals. We don't know. Yeah. So there might have been 7 of them on the ark, and I just showed the 2 males. Who knows?
But for me, I'm continuing on the weekdays. I'm continuing, my video games, Kingdom Hearts and Danganronpa. But I love, ironically, I love that thing, that series. visual novel where I'm playing a game right now where we're trapped inside our houses of kids trapped inside of school. They can't leave the school. So yeah, I think it's pretty much ironically appropriate this time of thing. Oh, and next Saturday, Saturday for my podcast, I have another guest. The Canadian ISETH original will be on my show, or ISIS original. I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Oh man, we'll get to watch that.
Yeah, she's you ever heard of the YouTuber Logic?
Logic or Logic?
Logic.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
This is his wife.
The French lady.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of her. Yeah.
She's gonna be on my guest next Saturday.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm actually subscribed to her. I just don't see a lot of her content on my feed because I've subscribed to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Not just interested in science. I watch a lot of cooking shows. I watch a lot of bad movie review movies.
Yeah. So sometimes you have so much stuff you can't keep up all of them.
Yeah, so I can't really talk about cooking stuff when I'm talking about evolution. I mean, how am I gonna add the two together? So
the evolution of cooking.
The evolution of cooking. Yeah, I don't want to do that either. I could go down that rabbit hole all I want, but I don't want to.
Yeah, like we can talk about how cooking food made our jaws shrink and our brain grow.
I could do that, but if I were going to do one about the evolution of cooking, it'd be more about how one type of cooking affected the next one, like how Greek cooking eventually affected Italian cooking, which then affected American cooking, and how, like, for example, like pizza is something. Here I am dorking out on you, by the way. How pizza could be argued to be an American food, even though there is a legitimate pizza that came from Italy. But there are definitely people that can make the argument that the American pizza is its own thing, separate from Italian pizza.
Yeah.
And I might be willing to do that, but I'd still be able to show the evolutionary connection and how they have speciated, so to speak.
Then there's the whole Chicago pizza versus New York pizza debate.
Chicago wins for me, but only in a technical sense.
Okay.
New York pizza is a great snack. When you're walking to someplace, go pick yourself up a piece of New York pizza. But if you're going to sit down and have a dinner, you can't beat Chicago pizza.
So you're yeah. There's no deep this pizza in my area, so I can't really say either way. But where I live in the eastern side, it's the flat pizza. And there's no deep dish pizza really in my area.
It's a single slice is a meal, whereas with New York pizza, a single slice is a quick snack, and that's really the difference. And also, New York pizza benefits from the local water supply. Anybody that lives in New York is going to tell you that the water supply in New York makes the dough that much better. And so you just can't. What are you going to do? Change the pipes in your area? It took 200 years for those pipes to get that particular combination of rust buildup and whatever else is in there. And so Chicago has its own thing. It's a different thing. Some people in New York would say it's not a pizza. It's a I forgot the word, but basically forget what the word was.
Casserole.
Casserole. That's the word, casserole. They're saying it's not a pizza, it's a casserole. I can't argue with them too much.
Okay, but yeah, so you live I guess the West it's the West thing is deep dish and the East is flatter. Is that the thing?
I wouldn't say that because most of the pizza I've eaten in my life has been the flat pizza. It's just that when I go out to have Chicago pizza, it's because I want to have one slice be a meal. When I go out to some other place, I don't go out to pizza anymore. If I'm going to have pizza, I order it. and I have it in, and then everybody gets a slice of it.
Yeah.
With something like a Chicago style pizza, that in and of itself is a meal.
Yeah, I gotta try that. I gotta try that. I gotta try some Chicago. See what it's like. I gotta find somewhere around here to order Chicago pizza and try it for myself for once. Cause everywhere I have it has flat New York pizza, so I can do that anytime I want to. But I want to try that. See what it's like.
What's really sad is that you don't live in New York, and I don't know if you've ever been to New York, but the thing is, if you're not in New York, you're not going to get New York pizza because, again, it's the dough. Ask anybody from New York. It's about the dough.
Yeah.
It's specifically about the water supply that makes the dough that much better.
Okay.
And I was hoping somebody in your feed would back me up on that, but no, I'm getting no justice.
I guess I have no New York fans. My niece, I have a niece that lives up in Upper New York, so I don't know if that's the same as New York, but. So before we go, you have a catchphrase you want to say your ending catchphrase? If you have one.
I only have two catchphrases. At the beginning of my show, I say I had to investigate, and at the end, and that's how blah 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 taught me real science. How creationism taught me real science. Other than that, I mean, it's not really appropriate. I do enjoy your channel. I like your forum, and I like the guests you get. So,
Thanks.
Keep doing what you're doing. I really enjoy your channel.
Thank you. And as I always say, never stop learning and enjoy the randomness. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.